fight. And it may not look the same, but all this foolishness with Democrats fighting Democrats have got to stop. Because we have one fight we need to all be together and strong on. And that is getting through this primary with our selves put together. And ready to go all of November. And I see nothing but potential in this room. I see great candidates stepping up, running for office. Running for office is not easy. Okay, I know I'm preaching tonight. Running for office is not easy. And so we need your support. Yes, we need your money. We need you knocking on doors. And we need to be doing that too, right along with you, right? So that's the spiel. I have a 9-year-old son, if you don't know, who wonders every time I walk out of the house, Mommy, are you going to go be the county clerk again? And I was like, yes, sir, your mommy's the county clerk. And when Mommy has security because this nation is sick and wants to attack people that run elections and mean well toward the civic process, that's our constables, that's our sheriffs. Because as much as I love this job, sometimes it just doesn't give you all the goodness. And so we've seen it play out across our nation where elected officials are being gunned down in their homes. So when I say the job is not easy, it's not easy to run, and it's sure not easy being elected. So we need your support and your prayers, most importantly, and your good vibes along the way. But as long as you keep electing me to do the job, I'm going to do it. Okay? To Sci-Fair because y'all brought some turnout in 2025. Now, I've been doing this work a long time, so 20 years total this last November, 5 years of being elected, 15 as a staffer. And when I looked at those Sci-Fair numbers, I was like, what they got going on over there? And boy, was I impressed of what grassroots work really looks like. Y'all were knocking on doors. You were talking to voters, and you went from 2023, about 54% or more, 54,000 voters, to over 62,000 voters. Yes, give yourself a round of applause. So, Sci-Fair, what you need to do is start poaching the other areas of Harris County and say, see what we did, right? Where's your turnout? Where are your numbers? How are you going to come to the table? But it shows you the potential. And in 2025, us all collectively saw an increase in what is considered a non-voting year for many, because it's an odd year. Folks are not in tune with state constitutional amendments and things of that nature. The turnout grew higher and higher, and that's what we want to see. So I'll talk a little bit about what my office does year-round to help with that outside of what the political parties is doing. And that is, we have a community voter outreach team, members of our community that goes almost everywhere in this county throughout the week and weekend over the years. And we go to more than 100 or so civic places, places of worship, community clubs, to do demonstrations of the voting machines on how to use it. If you're a first-time voter or if you're not, or if you're election judge, trainings. We bring sample ballots. We'll do meetings this season like prepping for the primaries and what does that mean. And so we have an outreach aspect that physically goes everywhere. We also have toolkits where we can provide the information in your meetings. And then, you know, our office also does a lot of PR and marketing. How many people have seen probably commercials or videos and things of that nature with my face on it, which gets me more attention than I'd like. So our court members, our commissioner's court has really invested dollars into getting more ads run, billboards across the county, social media everywhere, and even sometimes I have to find a way to say, okay, what election am I talking about before I record this video? And it's another election to vote in, but voter apathy is real, right? There's so much dollars thrown into the presidentials, And then when you get to midterm, it just drops off. It's, now there'll be a lot of hoopla now, right? Because from the federal on down, it's a lot of nervous people, and it should be, right? We saw what happened last year, and we can achieve that here in Harris County, and we can achieve it across the state of Texas. So you're gonna see more information coming out from my office and ways that we can expand, but more importantly, we need more election workers, don't we, Dwayne? We need more people ready to step up to serve and do the work, which means you get trained, you get placed at a polling location, and unfortunately, Harris County keeps doing this thing called growing, right? Can't you tell? So Harris County is the size of 25 states combined. Wow, yeah, every time I think about it. And every time we start looking at the roles and what we need to do, I'm like, oh my God, we gotta stop this, right? Someone was on the plane with me and was like, I'm moving to Harris County. I was like, we don't need them. And he kind of looked at me, I was like, I'm sorry, I'm just kidding, but kind of not. We don't need anybody else on the road in Texas, right? But it's growing substantially. So well over 5 million people live here. Of that 5 million, we teeter-totter between 2.5 to 2.7 registered voters. That's a huge gap, right? So when we talk about the amount of people who live here, which I think, it's probably far more closer to 6 million. We're the third largest county in the nation. We're getting really close to surpassing Cook County, Chicago. That's number 2. And so with those numbers, that tells us we got to get more people registered. Right? Now, when we talk about voter registration, we know that there's another fall off, right? Because once folks get registered, not all of them are voting. And the challenge we're going to face in a midterm is you're going to get a lot of voters and people engaging that hadn't voted since the last midterm, right? And or another presidential or two. So education is going to be wide and far across the board, and it's a shared collective. How many people have gone to harrisvotes.com? Raise your hand. Every hand should be up in this building. Let me look at it and say, I see those. Okay, let me check. So, if you're a registered voter in Harris County, everyone should be familiar with Harris Votes. My office is working really hard to get a really cool mobile app running before we get to November. To make sure we have more accuracies that makes it easier for people to access the information on the phone and track down their closest polling location and things of that nature. And we're doing many other innovative things in the elections to come. But if they would just stop coming and let us do some other things and planning, it'd be great. So how many people know we're right in the middle of an election cycle right now? Yeah, so as a matter of fact, when I was walking out, my staff was like, where are you going? Because we're working around the clock. We have already coded the ballots for the primary. There is not a time where we get to stop and then go to the next one, right? So we had a runoff in December. We were already coding the ballot for the primaries while the party fights it out, right? And we're like, make a decision because we got to get these printed ballots out in the mail. And right now we're in the Congressional District 18 runoff race, okay? What do I mean by that? People are already voting by mail. They were voting by mail in December for Congressional District 18 runoff. If you want to know how we got here because the governor refused to call a special election. He could have done it as soon as June of last year. How do I know that? Because they called me up the day that our former mayor and former congressman passed away and said, how soon can you run the election? The train had already left the station for May, and I said we can do it for June, or we can do it for July, and if we have to, we can do it early August, but at that point it needs to be November. And then he went on the record saying, hey, we can't call the election because the county clerk or the Harris County elections can't get their stuff together. Right, y'all remember that? And so the staff was like, clerk, are we responding? I said, we are. We're responding, and we're tagging. But we knew that was a crock of poo, right? And they wanted to kind of go back and revisit some challenges. But the bottom line is we responded. We said, hey, we worked with both parties, the Secretary of State. We've run more than 12 successful elections under my administration and called the election, Governor, right? But look, they had a big plan. the plan was chaos and confusion, right? And they've achieved it, but we know better than that. And we're going to educate our voters. We're going to educate everyone in this room. And we're going to make sure they have the tools. So we get past November, now we're in a special runoff at this point. Only if you're in Congressional District 18 can you vote in Congressional District 18. Now I know we laugh because we all live in this political bubble and we know all things. But the rest of the world out here, they don't understand that, right? And so early voting for Congressional District 18 runoff starts January the 21st and ends January the 27th. There's going to be a pop quiz after this. I hope you listen. And then Election Day is January 31st, right? Congressional District 18 has a little over 800,000 people that live in that district. About 400,000 that are registered. So remember when I talk about how many people are there versus the amount of registered voters? And then the impact of getting these folks to turn out after voting in November and December is very hard. So the messaging has to be strong for everyone, even if you don't live in CD18. It doesn't hurt you to go on Facebook or to send a couple of text messages to folks saying, hey, if you didn't know, there's an election going on. And if you live in that corridor or you have neighbors or church members, please go vote in Congressional District 18. Christian Menifee's in the race, and so is Amanda Edwards. Okay, we've got to get representation for CD18. Okay, so next up, which is already happening, is our March primaries. Do y'all know what day it is?
March 3rd.
I'm glad y'all said March 3rd and not a different date. So next week, my office does all the testing of the ballot styles. So if you didn't know, it takes us on average in Harris County, because we're so large, from 9 to 12 months to prepare for the next big election cycle, right? So we don't get to just say, okay, what are we doing now, right? We're having to rinse and repeat equipment, audit after every election, see what election workers are available to work. And over time, when you have these back-to-back elections, people are still living lives. They can't do it all, right? And that's why we really have to work on recruitment, which you can go to harrisvotes.com and sign up anytime today. How am I doing on time? I'm good?
Yes.
Okay, because I want to give plenty of time for questions. And so, March 3rd, ballots for the March 3rd primary. We have to, by law, get out overseas and military ballots by January 17th. Everybody said, whoa. Our office is going to be running the midnight oil, right? That's well over thousands upon thousands of ballots, right? And so when we get challenges to that ballot, it makes my job extremely hard. And it wasn't really fun to have to come back to work and sit in court hearings. But I said, hey, the train has left the station. Y'all need to figure it out. Really, you should have figured it out a long time ago. But we got to get those mail ballots out. So early voting begins February 17th. And throughout that period, I believe through the 27th, I don't have it right in front of me. And then election day is March 3rd, right? But here's the thing. 47% of Harris County will now be in a new district come the March 3rd primary. That's almost half of the county. All right? 47% of Harris County. So my job and the tax assessor collector's job, which is the voter registrar, Annette Ramirez, is going to be a tough job. Her team is working around the clock to get new voter registration cards out. And because of redistricting, a good portion of our county is going to have new members to vote on. And I can just imagine as much messaging and commercials and much doors we're going to knock on, there's going to be voters come in that site and say, I'm not leaving until I get the right ballot. And so we're going to have to work really hard when we send out our newsletters and our information that we're making sure that it resonates, that, hey, you can have a new list of candidates on your ballot that you're not used to seeing, okay? So 47% of Harris County have new districts that they live in. Those cards are supposed to go out before the end of January, so voters will be officially informed. But we know how folks are with the mail, right? And really understanding that. Now, right at the end of the filing period in December, I got another surprise. Clerk, we got another election for you. So Councilmember Abby Kamen, District C of the City of Houston, stepped down to run for county attorney in the primary, which vacates her seat. It means there has to be an election within 120 days of the vacation. I was so excited to get that news. You guys can only imagine the conversations I have behind the scenes, right? So with that being said, there's no other elections office in Harris County. So the weekend of April 4th will be the election for the City of Houston to fill the vacancy of City Council District C. So when I say there's never not a time we're not running an election, and I have to get up this morning and say, okay, before I talk to this person, what election am I talking about, right? So current congressional district going on simultaneously right into the primaries with new district and redistricting. And then right after that, city council race for District C. Now, it's a smaller margin. It's probably a little over 100,000 individuals registered in District C. There's more than 2 people filing, so it's probably gonna be a runoff. That runoff's gonna be in early May. And then there's gonna be a runoff. I'm just moving down my timeline. That's what it looks like on my computer. It's like this long timeline that goes across 3 screens. And then after that, the primary runoffs, which is May 26th. So we're gonna be elections till we're blue in the face. But it's necessary, and we've gotta stay there. And where is all this information? On harrisvotes.com. Right, harrisvotes.com. So sample ballots, information, also will direct you to voter registration because we have a ways to go. So, I hope everybody stays in their current seats. And everybody stays well. So there's no other surprise elections because we really gotta be ready to go before November. And we gotta spend the summer boots on the ground. Many of us will have to raise money and do all the things. And here's the tricky part. This year, I'm on the ballot too while running the elections. Oh, joy. And so that means I still do my job in all capacities, but I'll be very careful about what I'm doing and how I'm doing it and what I'm saying and when I'm saying it, right? And so I am going to come to you and ask like everybody else. I want to continue to be your county clerk. Okay? I want to continue to be your county clerk. But I want you all to know the difference between the county clerk and the district clerk. Okay? I'm not the district clerk. I don't want to be the district clerk. But there's a lot of other people who want to be the district clerk, okay? So district clerk handles jury duty and majority of all the court work. And that's great for them. County clerk, and I know it gets confusing. People hear clerk and that's all they hear. Right? Runs elections, handles all vital records, supports some of the courts, has the archives, and so many other things. So I'll be doing a video, really cute, really fun, saying, hi, I'm Tanisha Hudspeth, the county clerk, not to be confused with district clerk. You know, many people call and say, I think somebody's running against you, and this is what they asked for my vote. And I was like, well, not so much. And I get it, right? All these county races, it's very confusing, but I'm not running for district clerk. I'm running for county clerk, okay? And so I am respectfully asking for your continuous support. I'm unopposed in the primaries, thank God. But I will not be unopposed in November. But that's all right with me, because they're going to learn a good lesson today. So I ask for your support in all those ways. You can find everything about my campaign at TanishaHudspeth.com or on Facebook, X, Instagram at Tanisha4HC. So I respectfully not only ask for your vote of confidence, I hope I've earned that, but also for your support as we continue on down the way. So I will stop there and take any questions that this group might have. Yes, sir?
The new cards that are going to be mailed out, will they be available online at a certain date so that we can look at it then?
That I'm not sure of. Annette Ramirez will have to answer that question. But they will be online at some point. And so I think this year's cards are going to be white and orange. You know, they vary between white and yellow, white and blue. white and orange. I'm sure once they're sent, they're also gonna be populated on the website. Not speaking on behalf of the office, but these are just things that I know and tend to. So most of you all don't know this. That's a pretty good song. I might have to adopt that song. You can go to HC Tax to the voter registration tab, and that information will be there. I'm sure we have some volunteer deputies in the house, some BDVRs. I know I recognize some faces, yes. So thank you for the work that you do to register voters. The tough part is getting those registered voters off of their heinies and into the ballot box. Yes, so they will be online. Yes, sir, Howard. Yes.
How are we gonna do the volunteer? We all have to get certified. Are you gonna come out and individual things like before?
Are you talking about the volunteer deputy voter registrars? I won't, because remember, I'm the county clerk. Yeah, but Annette Ramirez, who is the tax assessor collector voter registrar, their office on HC Tax has a tab under voter registration that has BDVR. They do virtual trainings. They'll come to your clubs and organizations, and they will get more BDVRs set up and ready to go. So again, that's all voter registrar. That's not the county clerk, but I do know hctax.net is where you can get it online. Thank you for those questions. Yes, sir.
I got two questions. The first one, why does a vote by mail have to be renewed every year? And the second question is, why did that Longoria woman do such a bad job?
Okay. Okay. So the first question everybody probably didn't hear is why does the vote by mail have to be renewed every year? Meaning the ballot by mail application, because of legislation, right? So for many, many years in elections, if you were 65 and above or disabled and had that exemption, you just automatically got a mail ballot application, right? Did you want to vote or not? Right about 2010 is when the legislature really started tinkering more and more with the ballot by mail application process and the mail ballot process. So you went from having the exemption if you were 65 and above or if you were disabled to now you have to apply for your ballots by mail either by election or at the top of the calendar year. So by law now, if you vote by mail and you qualify, as soon as January 1st of the year, you can fill out an application and check the box that's called ABBM, which means annual ballot by mail. And that can qualify you where you can get a mail ballot for every election that you qualify for, or you can get the application and check the box for the elections that you want to vote by mail. The other opportunities to vote by mail is not just 65 and above, sick or disabled, or maybe that pregnant mom that doesn't know if the baby's coming. It could be I'm traveling outside the county or I'm working on assignment outside the county. It could be a variations of qualifications. All this information is on harrisvotes.com under the ballot by mail tab. So the reason why there has to be an application every calendar year is because our legislators changed the law there. Number two, I am not going to address, okay, because it's not my business to address. You would have to ask the person that did the job.
Well, thank you for doing such a good job.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And again, the work is a collective. What I will tell you is, you know, part of the reason why my administration has been successful is because I brought back a lot of folks who had done this work for a very long time. And it's not just about how you can be so proactive. You have to know election law. We don't get up and choose how elections work. You have to know election law. You have to hold a lot of people accountable, and you gotta be willing to work around the clock. And I'm not saying any previous administration didn't do that, but it takes experience. But at the end of the day, Harris County is at the top of the target, the bullseye for the state of Texas. And so even as great of a job as you all believe I have done, I've had to be even greater at playing chess and not checkers with the state of Texas. So part of that means I lose a lot of nights of sleep thinking about what they're gonna pull out of their hats the next day or what next session. I spent half of my first part of the year in Austin staring those suckers in the face and hearing saying, not in Harris County. But it is a continuous fight. And some of it is What can they come up with? What do we think we're missing? It's always having to be 10 steps ahead in this process. And so it's hard work. So anybody who's doing this work, whether it's in Harris County, across the state of Texas, it is hard work. So I give kudos to anybody in this business because it is not easy. But yes, thank you. How are you doing? Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Early voting, it used to be up here at the corner, when there was early voting going on, there was a sign, it was like an official road sign, that said early voting.
Okay.
And there, I have not seen one of those in years.
Is
there
it-
any reason why those got discontinued?
So, what is the location? Do you know the name of the location?
It'd be weekly.
Is it weekly?
Yeah.
And what they do is, it will be one probably on Lowenbaum and Fry Road. Normally that's, they have one there. There used to be one